Okay, so I got the rug in after a couple hours of moving furniture. It's actually hard to get it square to the edge of the room and the stereo and everything, but it makes a big difference actually. It's a much thicker pile, and it's absorbing sound quite well. I also moved the coffee table out from in front of the stereo over here. I slid it over here because I don't have a place to put it at the moment, and it just holds my drink there. But that made a decent difference as well because there's no sound bouncing off. It's basically a big reflector right between me and the stereo. And now it's a big absorber. So it cleans up that kind of floor bounce or coffee table bounce, cleaning up the sound quite a bit. I also moved the rug out further to the left, so there's some absorption to my left ear, so it more closely matches what I'm hearing out of the right side. Except now I got the coffee table sitting right here. But I gotta move that somewhere. But in the meantime, we had quite a project moving some stuff, and boom, made another upgrade. So these are the new speakers. These are the JBL K2 S9900s. I get a little depressed around the holidays for some reason and just try to make it through them. But so I did a little retail shopping, little retail therapy, as they say, and picked these up. They're quite a bit bigger than the Revel Ultima Studio 2s, which are right there. You can see how much bigger that speaker is. They're taller and wider, and they've got a 15-inch custom-built woofer with a 35-pound motor on them, and you can definitely feel it. You feel this. You feel the sound hitting you in the chest. So I'm very excited about these. The mid-range, they call it an augmented two-way. So the mid-range is actually the tweeter. So this is the tweeter and that's the woofer. And then it's augmented, so it's really a two-way crossover here, splitting the audio signal at one point. And then it's augmented with a super tweeter. That's a beryllium super tweeter on top. And then they've got a 4-inch magnesium compression driver, which I am just loving because it's throwing detail at me that I've never heard before. And I mean that it's throwing it at me too. So the sound comes at you on these. It's hard to describe, but it's pretty impressive. It's a very lively sound too. So the word vivid comes to mind. But yeah, so that's the new upgrade to the stereo, and it has never sounded better. They look darker in person. For some reason, the camera is adding exposure here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, they're not that orange, and they're darker wood. So I just dialed down a little bit so you can see it a little better. But beautiful finish. They're 184 pounds each, but in the crates, they're like 360 pounds. So it is a project to move these things. In the back, they've got this whole cast magnesium assembly here for the binding posts and the port. Also behind this little plate here, there is a switch. So if you're using it bi-wired or bi-amped, you flick that switch and it changes the crossover parameters. And then I'm not, so I like the single wire. But there's also a 9-volt battery, so the crossover is powered. There's a 9-volt battery in there, which keeps the capacitors in the crossover, I guess, fully charged and ready to go. For some reason, that's supposed to improve the sound. And then on the back, it is contourable to your room with high frequency and low frequency attenuation. It's only a half dB, which I took out of the treble because while the woofer is breaking in, the treble sounds a little hot. Just because the woofer isn't moving as much as it could be yet. You know, that spider's got to loosen up the suspension. There's these pretty cool stainless steel feet on there too, with spikes. And I have a wood floor, so it's a little tricky to get those on and then get it sitting into those little discs so it doesn't scratch your floor. That's a little bit of a tricky operation because it's so big and heavy. So you have to have somebody putting the spike on underneath while somebody else is tilting up the speaker and holding it. But I am pretty happy with these. I was really happy with the last pair, you know, as anybody should be. But this is definitely next level, and it's what I would call an end game speaker. When you know, I never thought I could get something like this in my lifetime. Like, to be completely honest, they let's just say this is beyond my financial means, but I am in the industry, and I have worked to upgrade a piece at a time, so I can sell off what I had before and pay for these. So I do get a discount. That's the only way I could get something like this. So I'm not going to pretend that any normal person can have this, but I've been fortunate. Anyway, the impact is just impressive. The detail that's coming out of the mids is impressive. Treble detail is impressive. It's interesting. Also, the sensitivity on these was spec'd as slightly lower than the Studio 2s, but they are clearly louder at the same volume. Like, it's not even a comparison. Before, on the Ultima Studio 2s, when I'd get to about 60 watts on the amps, it's about as loud as I would want to go. With these, I get to about 12 watts on the amp, and I'm like, okay, that's loud enough. Because the sound is coming at you, and they got power to spare and dynamics too. So they say that they'll take 500 watts RMS. I couldn't even imagine the output level they would be at 500 watts RMS. But yeah, it's an amazing speaker. Anyway, we'll talk more about those in another video, but I just wanted to show them to you. So thanks for watching, happy listening, and you guys all have a good weekend or day whenever you're watching this. All right, thanks. Have a good one.